Welcome to Ghostly.
Is the West Virginia Penitentiary haunted?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week. In each episode, we take a ghost story or paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca then gives us evidence proving that the story is real, and my job is to debate those pieces of evidence and get you, the listener, prepared to vote on if it's real or not. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And as always, we're your host. I'm Pat.
I'm Rebecca.
Just to let everybody know, we are on YouTube and we are doing videos of all of our episodes. So you should definitely go check it out and like and subscribe. Comment if you would.
Yeah, you can see me in my Believer Gal t-shirt.
I'm just straight up ghostly today. I'm wearing the ghostly hoodie.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So in this episode, it feels really good to be back.
Right. We are officially really back.
Yeah, I mean, last time we did Jim Harold, and that was a lot of fun, but that's not a typical ghostly episode. Right. And while doing the research for this, I was like, oh, this is what we did.
This is it. This is ghostly.
This is what it's about.
Ghosts.
And so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but it seems like this is a really spooky episode.
Definitely.
And a lot of history, a lot of really cool history for this one too. So I really like it. I don't know, maybe I'm going to be a believer after this.
Maybe.
I mean, you sent me a picture.
I did send you a picture.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
I could have sent you more, but I know I don't want to overwhelm you.
Sure. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let's do some shout outs. So
Okay.
There are two ways to get a shout out on Ghostly. The first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcast. We always prefer those 5-star reviews, but we'll read any and all reviews that we receive. And the second way is to become a member on Patreon. Just go to ghostlypodcast.com and click on Patreon in the menu bar. And we have a few different tiers to choose from, going from $1 all the way to $10. We just released our episode schedule on there, and It goes all the way out to the end of June.
Yeah, we are ready, and you never know, things might get added.
Yeah.
We keep changing things up, but no, it's a lot of fun. And we have Ghostly X. We just did a great interview, released a great interview on there. We've got some more coming up, some bonus content.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
So we do have 2 new patrons on Patreon. We have Rhonda and Graveside Paranormal. You've heard of Graveside Paranormal.
I have
before,
heard of
right?
Graveside Paranormal. We talked about a tour that we went on with them.
Yeah.
In November, I think it was. Super fun, super spooky stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really entertaining.
Yeah. All right. So I've got listener mail
today.
So I actually decided to go into listener comments this time. We have had some people send us stories, and I really appreciate that. We definitely need more. We'll tell you how to send them coming up. But this is actually a comment on the time slip episode.
And you could hear all the comments that come up in the polls if you become a patron and listen to Ghostly X.
Yeah, we share all those comments there. So this is from Lindsay, and she has a time slip story.
Okay.
So she said, this totally happened to my mom. When she was 12, she woke up during Christmas time and saw her uncle standing beside the Christmas tree, which she could see from her bedroom door. She called out to him, and he turned and smiled and motioned for her to go back to sleep. In the morning, she asked where her uncle was and what he was doing at the house so late the night before. She was so freaked out, they called him, and not only was he at his house the night before, 45 miles away, but he and the whole family were sick and were not going anywhere anytime soon.
Wow.
Ooh, that would be freaky.
Yeah, and
like,
I know.
Why would you dream your uncle? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, it'd be one thing if she was like, I saw something that looked like Santa Claus, or like, I don't know, like.
I would not dream my uncle. Just to put it out
yeah,
there.
That's what I'm saying. So like, that's what makes it a little more believable to me. I know we're not debating it, but I'm just saying. It
Miley
seems a little
Kunis
weird.
maybe, but not my uncle.
Mila,
yeah. Well, I mean, we have such a good relationship. I can call her.
I see.
That's my little pet name for her. So, thank you very much, Lindsay. And we always want to hear your stories. To send us a story, you can email us at info@ghostlypodcast.com or use the contact us form on ghostlypodcast.com. Or one of our favorite ways is to get ghost stories in the actual mail. So you can send it to P.O. Box number 264 in Geneva, Illinois, 60134. You're not going to remember any of the stuff I just said. So just go to ghostlypodcast.com and scroll to the bottom and you will see it in the footer.
All right. So next, of course, is your favorite time.
Oh,
Remember this part of the episode?
No,
Pulls.
I don't.
All right. So as we mentioned last time, we talked about time slips. This was back in November. So we had yes for there are such things as time slips, 54.5%.
All right. I mean, I didn't really have much stake in the game in this
one was, even for me, I was kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I tipped towards yes, and then no, 45.5. Obviously, that's the other half of the percentage there. What was the rating?
Yeah, so the overall rating, people can vote on how haunted they believe something is or how much they believe it. 1 being that they don't believe it at all, and 10 being the most believable thing that they've ever heard in their lives. We got 5.55, so that's pretty high for that, I would say.
It is. Yeah, I know that doesn't seem high, but it is actually. So people that believe it really believe it.
For a vote that was almost 50-50, that's pretty good, yeah.
Again, I think this is something, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen because...
Or watch it on YouTube.
It was our first one that we put up there,
Yeah.
so we're learning. But I think this concept is going to start coming up now as we talk about ghosts. Like, is it a ghost?
Think it will.
Is it a time? Well, I'm bringing it up. Let's just say it that way. Is it a ghost or is it a time slip? I mean, it's just...
You just want me to believe.
It's something. All right. So are you ready for a ghost story?
Yes, I am ready for one of Rebecca's spooky tales.
Woohoo.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
It'll be fun, my friend Cherie said. It'll be something we can say we did, she said. Now I'm regretting listening to her. Cherise had some connection to the guys who give ghost tours at the West Virginia Penitentiary, and she said we could get some time to explore the place all to our own in the middle of the night. She said the worst anyone had experienced was hearing some noises that could easily be explained away. Now I know that isn't true, but I didn't check it out before we went. The guys gave us a tour and showed us all the places where people claim to have experienced paranormal activity. And it wasn't just spooky noises. Maybe I should have told her then that I wasn't going to go back in with her, but we hadn't really seen or experienced anything on the tour, and she was just so excited to do it. And the guys would be waiting for us, so I thought, okay, it'll be all right. We started by walking towards the Sugar Shack, the old rec room that is well known for its paranormal activity. I had my phone out along with a flashlight, ready to take some creepy pictures. But I didn't think it would be as creepy as it was. In the shack, we definitely heard noises. Some of them even sounded like voices, but I dismissed them as just old building noises in my imagination. Next, we headed to one of the more notorious cell block areas. The air took on a much darker, oppressive feel here. So much violence and death had happened in these areas, you could just feel the pain and anger hanging in the air. Cherise decided to go into one of the cells. I refused to go all the way in. I just stood in the doorway. She was trying to talk to the spirits. She had some sort of recorder with her. All of a sudden, I felt someone touching my hair. Not some wind blowing. Someone touched my hair. I could feel the weight of the hand. I screamed and turned around, but no one was there. Cherise came to see what happened. I was shaking and almost crying at this point. But then we both heard a loud noise down the hall that stopped us both short. It was like someone had slammed a door or dropped something heavy. We both looked down the hall, and clear as day, there was a shadowy form of a man. It was like there was an area that had no light. I've never seen anything like it. This was not a shadow or like someone that was in shadow. It seemed like a living shadow. At least that's how my mind thought of it. I don't know how I had the presence of mind to do it, but somehow I got my phone camera up and took a picture of that figure. Soon after, it vanished. We ran. We ran all the way back to the entrance where the guys were waiting for us. We told them everything that happened, and I pulled up the picture on my phone. I couldn't believe it, but it was there. The shadow person. It wasn't as clear in the photo, but you could see him. The guys started to freak out with happiness. No one had ever caught anything so clear before. They begged me to send it to them so they could investigate and share it. I let them. In the moment with them, it all seemed to be exciting and not as scary. But once I got home and I really thought about it, all the terror came back. What did I see? What did I experience? And what does this mean about the world around us?
All right. So the question I always ask, how much of this is based on any facts, Rebecca?
So I will say this is not a story that was based on someone's experience, other than there are shadow people photos there. One in particular that's very famous that an investigator took that we'll talk about later, obviously, with the evidence. So I just kind of took that idea that someone took a shadow person photo and then I made a story. Yeah. So I don't want anyone, sometimes we have had people like reach out and think that my story is like a story of something that happened.
Yeah. There's no,
I don't want anyone to think that.
There's no friend named Charisse.
Right. Exactly. I
don't think anybody has a friend named Charisse.
Oh, I'm sure there are people.
All right. Well, write in and let us know if your friend is named Charisse.
I'm sure there are plenty.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we return, we will talk about the haunted history.
Bad facts.
Pat's Facts. From a skeptic point of view. Pat's Facts. He presents it all to you. Pat's Facts.
The Pat Facts are sponsored by Tarot by Ta.
Ta is a professional tarot card reader with over 20 years of experience. He reads at numerous public events, private parties, and personal appointments throughout the greater Chicagoland area. He also does his readings worldwide using services like Zoom.
But you forgot the best part. He is #Team Skeptic. How that works, I don't know, but that's Ta for you. To find out more about Ta, visit and like his Facebook page at facebook.com/tarot by Ta. We also have a Ghostly X episode where we interviewed Ta, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, if you want to understand how he can be a skeptic and a tarot card reader,
I get it.
Subscribe and listen, and he'll explain it.
All right, so let's get into these Pat Facts.
Pat Facts.
In 1863, West Virginia seceded from Virginia, and this is at the height of the Civil War. So they decided to break from Virginia due to political disagreement, pretty much meaning that West Virginia wanted to join the Union and Virginia didn't. The newly formed West Virginia had a lack of public institutions, which included prisons. And in order to be a state on their own, they needed to fill these voids. And
they needed a prison.
And they need to fill them fairly quickly. Or they at least needed to come up with some kind of plans for these things.
I understand.
Yeah. The new governor, Arthur Borman, sounds like a lovely man.
There's something about that name. I'm sorry.
Exactly. But he understood this, and he lobbied the newly formed West Virginia legislature. They repeatedly denied him, though. This went on from 1863 to 1866. The West Virginia legislature told him that he could just send them to other prisons or send them out of state, which would have been great, right? You just send all the prisoners to different state.
Okay.
It's different, though. If you are convicted in a county or a state, each had to have their own prisons. They're different levels.
Right. There's like county jail,
Yep.
state prison, and then federal, right, is the other thing we're
Yeah,
talking about?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And county jails were just simply inadequate for this kind of thing.
I mean, you're talking about heavy duty,
Yeah.
longer term sentences kind of thing.
Bigger crimes, too,
Gotcha.
sometimes. Yeah. In 1865, this was most apparent when 9 inmates escaped one of the prisons. That was all it took. And then the media took sides with the governor.
Gotcha.
So
They
finally,
escaped.
They escaped, yeah.
No.
What are you saying, that they were released? All right. Finally, on February 7th, 1866, the West Virginia legislature approved the purchase of land in Moundsville to construct a state prison. They purchased 10 acres just outside of Moundsville for roughly $3,000. That seems like they got a pretty good deal there.
Well, I don't know how much that would be in today's dollars, but still
Yeah.
seems not that bad for for getting permanent land for a prison.
Absolutely, yeah. Wheeling at that time was the capital of West Virginia, and Moundsville was just 12 miles south of Wheeling. So it worked out perfectly. Until they can get the prison made, they built a temporary wooden prison. This was not ideal, but gave them time to make plans for the prison itself. I've never seen a wooden prison before.
No, I don't see that going well.
They decided to model the new prison after a prison that is very creepy, and we did an episode on it already. Do you know which one it is?
I don't.
Joliet Prison in Illinois.
Not what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Gothic style of Joliet Prison, with its hopelessness, was perfect, as it gave the prisoners little hope of ever getting out and kept people from committing crimes in the area.
Now, this was where the Sausage King was.
The Sausage King was in Joliet.
Was that
he wasn't.
Joliet?
He was not in West Virginia.
No, but he was in, so kind of a similar. Okay.
Absolutely. The first building constructed on the new site was the North Wagon Gate. They used hand-cut sandstone from the local quarries, which was very similar to how Joliet was made from the limestone of the local quarries. They got cheap labor to construct the prison, as they used the prisoners for all the labor. And they finally finished the phase in 1876, and it cost $363,061.
That does not seem too bad.
No, it doesn't, for a whole prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so if you were a prisoner tasked with building this prison, would you try to like sneak like a weapon like in a brick or a stone in between them, something like that, where like you could find it later?
No, but what I would do though is I would maybe not mortar the bricks so much in the one particular area.
Right.
So I could just push them out.
Not such good quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
They also created a north and south cell block, which both measured 300 feet by 52 feet.
Okay.
It doesn't seem big enough.
No, it doesn't.
The South Hall had 224 cells that were each 7 foot by 4 foot.
Okay.
That's going to be important in a little bit.
Okay.
The North Hall had a kitchen, a dining area, a hospital, and a chapel. A 4-story tower connecting the two was the administration building, measuring 75 foot by 75 foot. It included space for female inmates, which was one of the things that Joliet lacked, and personal living quarters for the warden and his family. When the prison opened in 1876, they had 251 male inmates. Some of those were the very same prisoners that helped construct the new prison, like we were just saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. In addition to construction, the inmates had other jobs to do in support of the prison. In the early 1900s, some industries within the prison walls included a carpentry, a paint shop, a wagon shop, a stone yard, a brick yard, a blacksmith, a tailor, a bakery, and a hospital.
And a candlestick maker?
No, they didn't have candlestick makers then. I'm sorry. Because of all that, the prison was almost self-sufficient.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. They opened up a coal mine about a mile away, which helped save money on the powering of the prison.
Wow.
And some inmates were actually allowed to stay at the mine, with the supervisor of the mine, which was a mine foreman who was not a prisoner.
Interesting.
But it was just like one guy.
One guy with all those prisoners, with all sorts of things you would use to mine coal with.
Yeah, but surprisingly, none of the coal miners escaped.
Interesting.
Conditions at the prison during the turn of the 20th century were good, according to a warden's report, which stated that
both the quantity and the quality of all the purchases of material, food, and clothing have been very gradually but steadily improved, while the discipline has become more nearly perfect and the exaction of labor less stringent. I mean, that sounds nice, but like, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to take the wardens.
Well, at that time, it was fine. It was fine, but it got worse.
Okay.
Construction of a school and library was completed in 1900 to help reform and educate the inmates.
That's good.
They were big on that, although they never really thought they would get out. But they were big on the reforming them. Then throughout the years, the conditions declined dramatically. The prison was ranked on the top 10 most violent correctional facilities list that was put out by the Department of Justice.
Wow.
A place called the Sugar Shack, which you mentioned in your story, was infamous for gambling, rape, and fighting. And the Sugar Shack was also the name of a male dance club here in the Chicagoland area.
I thought that name sounded familiar.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I read that, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Seems like a more appropriate thing to be like. If I hear the name The Sugar Shack, I think of that as more of a male dance club than I do a rec room at a prison.
By 1929, there were problems with overcrowding. And the cells that were already too small to house even one person, 7 foot by 4 foot, they had to house multiple people. But they had to until the prison was expanded. So they had planned to do the expansion. They would often put 3 inmates in one tiny cell. 2 prisoners would sleep in the bunks, with the third sleeping on a mattress on the floor. Because of a shortage of steel during World War II, it took 30 years to complete the expansion. So they had 3 people in each cell for 30 years. Do the math there.
Yeah, wow.
And of course, they used prison labor then when they were able to do it. So the same prisoners again. In total,
well, maybe not the same prisoners.
Well, not the same ones that built the prison, but the same ones that were living in the prison.
Gotcha.
In total, 36 homicides took place in the prison. From 1899 to 1959, 94 men were executed at the prison. Hanging was the method of execution until 1949, with 85 men meeting that fate. The public could attend hangings, which were public until June 19, 1931, and on that date, Frank Heyer was executed for murdering his wife. And when the trap door beneath him was opened and his full weight settled into the noose, he was instantly decapitated. And following this event, attendance at hangings was by invitation only.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that would have drawn more people to the next one, but maybe that's part of, yeah.
This is a really interesting little factoid about this. In 1983, convicted multiple murderer Charles Manson requested to be transferred to this prison to be near his family. His request was denied, though.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Now, didn't they build an electric chair?
I think after the hangings.
Yeah. Okay. And I just had read, like, I mean, again, I don't know, but I think that we have often heard of electric chairs being called Old Sparky. Yeah. But that's what they called it. It's not good.
No, definitely not. Towards the end of its life as a prison, the facility was marked by many instances of riots and escapes. In the 1960s, the prison reached a peak population of about 2,000 inmates. With the building of more prisons, that number declined to 600 to 700 inmates in 1995. and the fate of the prison was sealed in 1986 with a ruling by the West Virginia Supreme Court, which stated that the confinement to the 7-foot by 4-foot cells, it was considered constitutionally cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, and that was just probably for like one person,
Exactly.
let alone 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
Within 9 years, West Virginia Penitentiary was closed as a prison, and most of the inmates were transferred to the Mount Olive Correctional Complex in Fayette County, West Virginia. A smaller correctional facility was built a mile away in Moundsville to serve as a regional jail. Tours are available for tourists wishing to see the prison. The Elizabethtown Festival is held every year to celebrate and remember historic Moundsville. A haunted attraction called the Dungeon of Horrors is also set up for the Halloween season. And paranormal groups and enthusiast travel guides consider Moundsville Prison to be one of the most haunted prisons in the United States, with the ghost stories originating as early as the 1930s. Legends claim that the prison occupies the site of a Native American burial ground. Who would have thought?
Yep.
And alleged hauntings by spirits of dead inmates.
Dun, dun, dun. Perfect setup.
Right? Do you have anything to add to the history?
Just the thing about the Old Sparky, and I it definitely seemed, we'll talk about some specific instances, but a very violent place as far as, people, inmates attacking other inmates, and, obviously the, kind of some cruel and unusual executions, and, a lot of reasons for people to still haunt it.
I don't know. They should have just worked at the coal mine.
That would have been maybe a better job.
Yeah, you only have one person watching over you. You could, a little
outside,
bit more freedom.
outside of the prison.
I don't think you actually live in the mine.
Well, that's true. You probably come up, at the end of the night. I don't know.
I think you have to.
I don't know though. How did they not escape? But I would hope that they would come out.
Because they loved what they did. They did it for the love. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and when we return, it'll be time for a debate.
Oh, hey there, Count Panic. I got a question for you.
What's that, Bob?
What do you know about Mothman, the Loch Ness Monster, ghosts, demons, and things that go bump in the night?
Not much, Bob.
Well, lucky for you, we host a podcast called Bob After Dark, where we talk about legends, lore, and the supernatural.
Wow, where can I find this podcast?
Wherever you find your great podcasts at.
All right, we're back. You ready for a debate?
Yeah.
Yeah?
For this one? Yeah.
Okay. Let's hear what you got, Rebecca.
All right. So we're going to talk about some of the specific places and sightings that have happened at this prison. I just want to give an overview, though. I mean, you kind of started talking about this before break, but of just all the things that have been reported at this prison.
Okay.
So apparitions.
Okay.
Smelling unpleasant odors.
I mean, have you seen the condition that the prison's in right now?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Very true. Strange noises and echoes. I think also a little hard to attribute to paranormal things. Even some of the videos that I've watched where people are investigating, they're like, oh my gosh, what was that noise? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, it was a door, or like whatever, they kind of figure it out.
Well, you know what? I really like doing these episodes about like prisons and stuff like that because there's usually not women in white.
I don't believe there is I do not believe that there's a woman in white here. So that is true. That is true.
All right.
Feelings of being watched.
Okay. And I covered that in the last Ghostly X episode.
You did talk about that a little bit. Yeah. Visitors have felt brushed by somebody, tapped. And even shoved by invisible hands. And cameras have captured ghostly mists,
ding, ding, ding,
faces, figures, and of course, your favorite, orbs. I don't think I have any orbs in my evidence. But I thought we would start, because you actually mentioned this. Hauntings have been reported in the prison as early as the 1930s. So even while it was an active prison, the prisoners and the guards themselves actually recorded seeing the apparitions, basically, or paranormal things. So basically, there was an inmate that was often spied walking along a maintenance area where prisoners were not allowed.
It was spied?
Yes, was seen. Spied. No, an inmate was often seen walking along a maintenance area where prisoners were not supposed to go. So then they would either alert, the inmates would alert the guards, or the guards would see it and they would set off alarms, but there was no one there and there were no inmates unaccounted for when they investigated. So they didn't necessarily call it a ghost, but basically it was like, hey, who's that guy in that area that there's not supposed to be anybody? And there was nobody missing. And when they went to look, never anybody there.
Wow.
So what do you think?
So I think that 1930s, after the spiritualist movement, I mean, this place was pretty much made during the spiritualist movement. It was a Gothic style prison, so it gives that feeling of being extra creepy. And, you know, about the prisoner walking there when they weren't allowed, there was a lot of escapes in this prison.
Or escape attempts.
Escape attempts, yeah. I would say that it's probably actually a prisoner.
I don't know, though. I mean, that seems really weird then, because how is it then they just like managed to get back in their cell and no one see
because
them?
They made the cells. That's the reason why. They made the cells, so they put a little way in and out.
Okay, how about just out though? Like, why would you come back in?
They didn't want to alert the guards too much. They just wanted to mess with them. No, I think that this is just a prisoner, somehow in the wrong area.
Okay, so what's your rating then?
I'm gonna go 1 on this one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 5 because
5, okay.
yeah, because I feel like it sounds like it happened more than once. If it just happened one time, I would be like, yeah, it was a prisoner. But the fact that it seemed to happen over and over again makes me think maybe they were seeing the ghost of something.
But why a 5 and not like a 7? That's what I was thinking.
Because again, it is the 30s and I don't have a lot of like evidence, and they didn't necessarily describe it as a ghost.
Yeah.
So
just a person. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next piece of evidence. Again, there's so much. Let me just say this. Like, I mean, I'm gonna post in our show notes YouTube videos, tons of stuff out there, people investigating this place, but I want to focus on the areas that are like hot spots for activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of give some of the stories that they talk about. So one of the most notable documented deaths at the prison is of R.D. Wall. He was an inmate that basically they thought he was a snitch.
Mm-hmm.
I am not saying he was a snitch. If you are a, descendant of this man, I mean, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but
well, you know what snitches get?
Well, he got a lot more than stitches.
Oh.
But on October 8th, 1929, he was attacked while heading to the boiler room by 3 prisoners with dull shivs.
Yeah, I read about this doing the history. I didn't include it in the history, but
yeah,
I figured there was probably something with that.
Yeah.
So,
so since his death, many have claimed to encountered paranormal activity around the site of his murder. Shadows tend to lurk in the dark, and physical touch is very common. Now, there's a lot of shadow people photos around the prison, but I thought we can talk about what you think as far as just kind of general paranormal activity around this area, including the touching, and then maybe we can talk about the shadow person photo.
Well, okay, so I will say that as far as the photo goes, that was the only piece of evidence that I've reviewed prior to this episode, just to let everyone know. So the shadows tending to lurk in the dark and physical touch, like the paranormal activity part, it doesn't give much of a description, so I'm going to take it that the shadows and the physical touch are the description of it.
Yes.
And I would say that because of it being that Gothic style of a prison, that shadows are more pronounced then. The way that it's built up actually promotes
like
that.
Stone-ish kind of.
Yeah, and
looking?
it's tall. And yeah, I would say that that shadows would be more prominent too. And especially that it was in sandstone, so I think the shadow would come out a little bit more too. As far as the touching, I think this is just people being paranoid, and they're assuming something like that. You don't have any like firsthand accounts of these things, though, right?
Oh, there's definitely a lot of firsthand accounts out
Okay.
there of people saying that they were touched. I mean,
But not on this particular one, though.
I mean, for this, I mean, I'm not like sharing necessarily a specific person with
Yeah.
you, but there's many of them out there. People
Yeah.
saying they felt touch. They say a lot of times men feel it more on like their shoulders or like their
So they reach out
sides.
and touch the shoulder and say like, "Hey."
But women will feel it like with their hair or their back. So
Well, but maybe a guy with long hair would feel it on his hair too. I don't know.
I don't know. Now, okay, let's talk about the shadow person photo then a little bit more.
Sure, yeah.
So, because it is something different, you know, like it's not like it's a shadow. It is a clear outline of a humanoid figure.
It is a person.
I mean, do you feel like it is a person there that's just
Yes.
in shadow?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel that the person was standing to the left of where the camera was, and you could kind of see it in the shadow too. That's how they were positioned, and the shadow is only there because because a person was there.
Okay. I mean, I will say, like, the person who took the photo said very much that it was a very dark shadow, that it felt like a black, you know, thing, and that it looked at her.
But when
the
you're
photo doesn't necessarily look like that, though. Like it's hard, you know what I mean? Like it looks more grainy.
Yeah. When you're on these tours, though, you have no way of knowing how many people are behind you or around you and stuff like that. Like we've done tours, and I took a photo of what looked like a shadow person, but it was actually one of the people in our group leaving us behind. Or we were leaving him behind or something like that.
Well, this was,
So,
I think she was with just another person. They weren't doing a tour at this point. And so they did not know of any people. You know, it wasn't like there was supposed to be someone up there or anything like that.
I still think it's a person, though.
All right. So what's your rating for this one?
0 on this one.
Okay. I give this one, I give it a 7. Yeah.
7, okay.
Yeah. The photo, I mean, it's not a 10, you know, but it's up there.
Okay.
All right. Okay, next one. So let's talk about the Sugar Shack. We mentioned that.
All right.
Talking about the Sugar Shack here. It's an old rec room in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it was infamous for gambling, drug deals, you know, rapes, fighting, murder. So kind of a dangerous
I think you're supposed to read
place.
that and
Murder. So today, visitors report hearing unseen people, so voices, arguing, talking, whispering. Others have heard just unexplained noises and cold spots. So let's just stop there for a moment and talk about that. I will say I watched a video, and again, I will post it. It's an hour-long video, so I didn't send it to you because I'm like, I'm not going to send you an hour video. But while they were in this, they had like one of those newer like spirit boxy kind of things, and it said dining
No.
when they got there.
Well, they didn't dine in this room.
I
though.
don't know, but for some reason. Anyways. So what do you think about, so we got voices and other noises as well as cold spots.
So I'm thinking that this place is in the basement, so you might be able to pick up sounds from above you, and that might give you the feeling that there is like people talking and people whispering and stuff, you know, so that I would say could explain that. Unexplained noises and felt cold spots. First of all, cold spots, it's in a basement. So, I mean, basements are typically colder. Heat rises. That's how that works. And so basements are typically colder. So I could see them feeling cold spots. Unexplained noises goes back to the same thing I was just saying, that it's in the basement. So people upstairs.
Well, or just the prison itself. I mean, I will say I find this not as compelling.
Yeah.
You know, like of evidence, even like quote unquote people talking. Like, I think a lot of things there could be animals in there. There could be things going on. You know, it's a big abandoned place. Like, it's really hard to know that what you're hearing is something paranormal unless you can truly investigate it all, like with lights on and stuff like that. And then I agree with cold spots. That seems a little bit shaky to me. But we're not done.
Well, hold on. I was going to say one more thing too.
Okay.
It's that you also are in a place that's notorious for being, you know, this big spot of activity and stuff. So I think people go in there expecting more.
That could be.
And so
Has a lot of energy in it. I'm going to say that.
Possibly. I don't know.
All right. So there is one more thing in this area. They say that it's also haunted by a maintenance man who once worked here. He was said to have often spied on the prisoners and was quick to report any news or infractions to the guards. So again, another informant, but obviously this he wasn't a prisoner. In retaliation, he was stabbed several times with shivs when he was in the bathroom. After his death, his ghost was said to wander around the basement area, and some people have reported equipment malfunctions. So I have heard that too. So basically, maybe they see an apparition, though I didn't find any necessarily specific reports of that. But I did hear people talk about like the whole like losing their batteries and equipment dying, that kind of stuff.
And they're not shivs, they're shanks.
I think they could be either.
They're shanks.
Okay. Is that an Illinois version of the term?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as this goes, you are in a place that you believe is going to be haunted. You're going in there for that sole purpose of thinking it's going to be haunted, and you are in the basement of this creepy area. Going into a normal person's house and going into their basement is creepy enough. Going into a creepy basement of a prison, yeah, it would probably make you feel like, maybe I saw something. Maybe it's that maintenance guy and things going wrong. This place is 160 years old. Things are going to go wrong a lot. So
Well,
I don't believe
know.
any part of this.
I mean, to me, the equipment malfunctions are always compelling evidence because, I mean, if it was just one thing one time, but when it's like, okay, this stopped working and this battery drained and,
160
stuff
years
has
old.
happened. Right, but these are not things connected, like they're not plugged in to the prison.
So you're saying that people bring like cameras down and that's what happens? Because to me, it sounds like equipment in the place.
No. They mean like, no, it means like people coming in to investigate their equipment malfunctions.
I've often thought about this. There could be some kind of thing. Like my dad used to have this thing where he would wear watches and he would wear them for a day and zap the watch totally. The watch wouldn't work after that. So after
Is this just one watch or multiple
no,
watches?
after he passed, I looked in one of his drawers to clean it out, and there was about 10 watches in there. And because I always wore watches, and I always asked him why he didn't wear them, and that's what his excuse was. I think there's a possibility that there's some kind of electromagnetic thing that's happening that's causing that to happen, which is not at all paranormal. It's based upon physics.
Super paranormal.
No, so 0 on this one, Rebecca.
I'm going to give it 4. Again, I'm not as convinced. I mean, I do think people are hearing things.
That's pretty
there
low
and all
for
that.
you.
It is pretty low, but again, I just didn't see a whole lot of real specifics with that.
Okay.
All right. So next one, the North Wagon Gate, which you mentioned, right? The oldest structure, is said to be home to one of the prison's most active ghosts.
Of course it is.
So basically this is by where the execution gallows were. Now you talked about a guy that was beheaded.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So this is another one, a guy named Orville Adkins. He was hanged.
Oh yeah, I was on his diet before.
in 1938. But his execution was pretty messed up. As the noose was being placed around his neck, a nervous assistant pulled the trapdoor handle too quickly, and Orville fell 20 feet to the stone walkway.
Oh.
Though he was stunned and hurt, he was still alive. He was then pulled back up to the scaffold and hanged correctly. Oh,
Wow.
So here, visitors say the area exudes an evil feeling and they feel as if they're being watched. Mysterious sounds and voices have been captured in EVPs, and the ghosts and the condemned are often sometimes seen. And they say they hear his footsteps. So I know that's a lot of little things there, but so we got the mysterious sounds and voices.
Feeling evil.
Feeling evil. Yeah.
Yeah. So the evil feeling is because you're in a freaking prison. You're going to feel that way. Evil people have been there. Actually, I don't believe in evil like that, but bad people have been there, and you know that. So I think you're going to pick up on that. I don't think that that's anything paranormal with that or supernatural. They feel as if they're being watched. Well, again, I covered this on Ghostly X the last time. There are people that believe that we have this like force field set up around us where we can feel if anything is going into that force field or anything.
Pretty paranormal stuff.
It could be, or it could be electromagnetic again.
I mean, all right. I think it all falls under the activity.
No. Mysterious sounds and voices. We've covered this in the last couple ones, but this one's being captured in EVP, so I give them even less credit then. And the ghosts of the condemned are sometimes seen. Yeah, and you tried to put often seen in there, so.
Yes, no, and then I corrected myself. Yeah, sometimes seen. But again, I the only pictures I've seen of ghosts are more just like shadowy figures, and the one I sent to you is the most clear of those photos that I saw.
I will say, very, very clear picture. I mean, too clear though. That's my problem with it.
So if I sent you one that was less clear, would that have
maybe
you?
I don't know, maybe.
All right.
So yeah, I think it's just people having wishful thinking that they see these condemned people walking around there. And footsteps are said to be heard slowly pacing back and forth. Again, this has multiple floors in it. So it could be something upstairs. It could be something with the wood. It could be that they're on a tour and there's multiple people and you're not aware of all the people's positions at every time. So I'm gonna go 0 on this one again.
All right. This one I'm going to give a 6.
6. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think here we're getting things captured by recorders, and I do. Again, every single person that goes into this place reports feeling pretty spooked out.
Not every single person. Some people.
Most people.
You're reading reports of the people that have said that. You're not reading the reports of people that were like, nope, nothing.
Wow, this is definitely one of the spookier parts of the prison.
Okay.
All right. Last section here. And again, there's the whole place has reports, but this is, I think, one of the other big ones, which is in the cell blocks themselves.
Okay.
Right. So we were, in the rec area, and then we were kind of where the executions were. So now we're back in the cell blocks. And there are certain cells and certain areas of cells that are more active than others. But I would say that one of the most popular cells to investigate is of William Red Snyder.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. Red was murdered in his cell after being locked up for murder and becoming a leader of a gang within the prison. So countless people have claimed to hear Red's raspy voice within the cell, whether that be disembodied voice, like they're just hearing it live with their ears, or through, I don't know what ITC equipment is. I'm sorry, I didn't look it up, but paranormal investigating equipment.
I wonder if Red is saying something about putting his foot up their behind or something.
You've been watching that 70s show lately?
That 90s show.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that they actually heard a raspy voice. And even though there was ITC equipment used, there was no recordings or anything that you heard, right?
I mean, I definitely heard recordings, like or people investigating, and they're getting voices on their equipment.
Did you hear this raspy voice of Red?
I didn't, it was more like, when you do the spirit boxy thing. So it wasn't necessarily like a raspy voice. So, but by the way, ITC, oh no, like some sort of induction equipment. I don't know. There's too many things. Oh, it's a form of a spirit box.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like, I feel like like the kind of a more updated version of it.
Those use radio waves, or some of them will use like a Wi-Fi signal in order to get that. So I don't trust that. So I'm going to give it a 0.
Okay. I am definitely going to give this one a 7 because it definitely is like a super freaky area. And there's this one particular cell that people keep going back to. They keep hearing things, seeing things there. Yeah, I'm going to give it.
All right.
Give it a 7.
So what's your overall rating then, Rebecca?
So my overall rating for this place is a 6.
A 6. Okay.
I mean, I want to go higher. I want to give it a 7, but it's just tricky because, well, we'll talk about it. But the evidence with the noises, I just have a harder time buying. But there are enough other things that kind of put it over into the paranormal for me.
So, yeah, I'm going to have to go 0 on my overall rating because I gave more zeros than I gave like 1. So it doesn't average out to be anything more than that. So that brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time, and we will time each other on our cell phones because Rebecca likes to fib. Likes to fib.
Honest.
Rebecca, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. I have 1 minute on my phone and go.
All right. So I do believe that the West Virginia Penitentiary is haunted. There are so many reports, a lot of sightings, photos. There's a lot of recordings. Again, I don't have the time to play hours of video on our episode, but I will link to them. So definitely check them out. But that being said, a lot of it is being like, what was that noise? What was that noise? What was that noise? And I just have a harder time with that evidence because there's not really a lot of proof that that's something paranormal, especially in this like older prison that's very like being let, like no one's like taking care of it or anything, like it's disintegrating. So, but there are just enough EVP stuff, just enough reports that I feel like it goes towards the haunted.
Oh,
there you go. Right on time.
Right on time.
It was perfect.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Go.
I think we need to stop assuming that places are haunted just because of their history. I believe that, it's got a very dark history to it. There was some bad things that happened in this prison, but it doesn't mean anything. This is a Gothic style prison that's 160 years old. Of course, you're going to feel creeped out when you go inside there. And of course, you're going to be at heightened alert. But that does not mean that there's anything in this prison besides your own feelings about it. So I'm going to say no, and I think you should vote my way.
Are you done?
Yes.
All right. There you go. I feel like maybe based on this episode, we need to do an episode about what is the creepiest architecture style, because you really seem to think Gothic is creepy.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean, it definitely, I think, is often used in creepy ways. That's true.
Yeah.
In movies and things like that.
If I was going to create like a haunted house, Gothic would be the way to go.
Yeah. The gargoyles and all that.
I love gargoyles. They're awesome. So I want to thank everyone so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as word of mouth is our best advertisement. If we haven't said it like 20 times already, we are on YouTube. Go to YouTube, watch us, subscribe, and like and comment. We definitely would appreciate it. We do have some VIP patrons to acknowledge in this episode. We consider them like our producers.
Alicia,
Carrie,
Becky,
Natalie,
Kim,
Ta,
Ernie,
Shayla,
Cindy,
Kevin,
Nicole,
Jessica,
Alice,
Austin,
Aaron,
Hope,
Candy.
Yep. And on the next episode of Ghostly, we will be talking about Jerome Grand Hotel in Arizona, and it comes out on February 8th.
Super excited about this one.
Yeah, before that, we are going to be at Dark Matters in Elgin, Elgin at Side Street Studio Arts. And it's going to be like a podcast festival with just spooky, dark podcasts.
Yeah, it's literally called the Dark Matters Podcast Festival. 2 days of spooky, fun podcasting.
Yeah, I think it's a play on words. Like dark matter and then the dark matters.
I named it.
Yeah,
And
so it's a play on words.
That's what it is, yeah.
It's a play on words, yeah.
But no, we are headlining Saturday night at 8:30.
Yes.
But you can, for low price, you can see both days. So if you're in the area, come and check it out. And we will hopefully be recording what we do and releasing it to our Patreon.
Yeah,
So
and
subscribe.
paranormal guys are going to be there.
Yes.
And Ta's going to be there. And the Mayfields will be there. And everybody that you know and love from Ghostly will be there, including Nick Mataragas. But yeah. All right, but until next time, stay ghostly.